All right. Second thing, on Wednesday, you have, there is one of those like hour-long flex periods on Wednesday, but you have some kind of meeting with your counselors that she assures me isn't going to take, like it might take half the time or so. I have a meeting then too myself, but I'm hoping that the second part of that, at least for 15 or 20 minutes of that flex, you can come in here and we can do a quick review. Your test is immediately after flex. Okay? So, again, I have no idea about my meeting. I have no idea about your meeting. But if you are interested, as soon as they release you, come here. And as soon as I'm released, I will come here, and hopefully there will be some time to debrief real quick before I hand you a test, which is what's going to happen right after flex on Wednesday. Okay? Now, here are your quizzes. And I need to get those back to you. They're 14 points. So we need to go, it's over there, so plugged in. These are 14 points. So let's go over these real quick, answer any questions you have about your, well, honey, I don't know what to tell you.
No, I'm just gonna have to.
Well, you'll have to take a makeup. And it has to be taken before you take the test. So figure it out. Eckhart, I had your little brother in my placement test room.
I heard.
He's a sweetheart.
Is this at 14?
Is that what I said it was out of? Okay. All right, so anybody have a question about your quiz? Let's take care of that first. And then I got another sheet I want to take a look at. So who has a question about the quiz? Quickly, last call, Brenton.
Never mind, I didn't grab it.
Okay?
I switched over before.
Okay. Okay.
Like on that last one.
As long as you know how to do it.
We really need to show the work.
You do. What kind of work do you have to show?
You plugging in negative one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. What do you think on the phone?
You just read the
Plug in negative one. Oh, yeah.
To find the remainder in number 4, all you have to do is plug in 1, right? To find the remainder, all you have to do is plug in 1. If you divide, you have to put in about a zillion zeros, and you don't want to do that, so you're just going to plug in 1.
What about number 6 on the?
Yeah.
6? Question about number 6?
Oh yeah.
Which question was yours? Everybody had a different one.
Yeah.
So we want the dimensions of the biggest field we can make up against the river. So you know we have 500 meters total of fencing. So call those X. And then this one would be 500 minus 2x. Because you've got x over here and x over here. Area is x times 500 minus 2x, or 500x minus 2x squared. We want to maximize that, which means find the vertex. So x equals negative b over 2a. So that's 125. So this dimension is 125, and this one would be 250. So the question says find the dimensions 125 by 250. Okay? anything else on the quiz that we need to look at?
Can we look at the book?
Pardon me?
Can we, even though it's like not really one, can we look at the bonus?
Yeah, you need to be able to do that if you, let me see if this, okay, so the equation, you need to go back to number 1, and the equation in number 1 is, x plus 3 squared, x minus 1, and x minus 4.
Yeah. Then you plug in 6 for 1.
Now, yeah, we don't know, that's good enough for what you have, because there's no vertical scale marked on here. We have no idea how high this thing's going. There's no indication at all. If, however, we are told that it contains the point 0.06, then that means whatever multiplier is out here in front, and it could be a 1, it could be a -1, it could be a 16, it could be anything, whatever it is, makes the curve high enough at 0 to go through 6. So we just work it out, that would be 9 and -1 and -4. So that's 36, so n equals 1/6. Okay, now this is a bonus question. If you didn't show me the right work, I'm not giving you credit for it, okay? That's all there is to it, it's that easy.
I'm speechless.
You're speechless? You want partial credit, Brenton?
Well, no, because I
No, I mean, if you missed something, do you want me to give you partial credit?
Well,
Yes.
I totally, no, I'm getting this
You're
full
good.
size.
Okay, what's this?
They're drug tested.
All right, who else? Anybody else have a question about the quiz? I thought they told you now if you passed or not, did they?
They changed it.
Oh, they changed it again? So now you don't know? I mean, if they tested me, I would know.
No, I got tested first, and that's when they showed it in front of me, and I heard that.
They don't do that. Why not? Well, then you can talk.
All right, now, I know we have review sheets to do, but like I said, I've done those did you guys already do those? I've done those already on video for you, so I thought we would work through these 2 old quizzes. Are pretty good. They're pretty good. So, they're pretty comprehensive. Please start on the side that says period 1. Okay, we're going to start on the side that says period 1. And we're going to roll through this pretty quickly because most of them are pretty quick. So, number 1 is very fast. List the possible rational roots. So if the problem is this, then the possible rational roots are factors of 7 over factors of 3. So the list, and you can use plus or minus, you don't have to write them all out separately. The list would be 7 and 1, 7 over 1, 1 over 1, but then also 7 over 3 and 1 over 3.
For the answers, is it okay to just put like all the top numbers above?
No, this is the list.
Or just like
That's the list. That's what you have to have. Now, got a big problem. We got to find the zeros of it. How many zeros does this problem have? 4. So we need to somehow come up with 4 answers to that. Okay, so what are you thinking when you look at that? You're thinking, okay, I have no idea, it doesn't group, so I'm going to do my guessing. And Dylan said synthetic division, that's fine, you can just jump straight in with that. I prefer to just kind of plug numbers in and see what happens, but that's my choice. You can do it by division if you want, right from the very beginning. Notice that my PRRs are factors of 20. Okay, there are a lot of those, so it's really not going to be too helpful. So I'll just try, how how about -1? Let's look at -1. That looks like it might work. -1. It does. Awesome. So I will go ahead and divide out -1. I got lucky. -1 worked. Those of you that started with division, you already have this done. There it is, my 0. Remember, if it's a factor, your remainder has to be 0. And it is. So one of my answers, remember I'm finding them all, so one of them is -1. Okay, what do I do now?
We'll try and get the y, the 1x to the third.
Okay, so the depressed polynomial, the polynomial I'm left with is x cubed minus 5x squared plus 4x minus 20.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, sit back, look at that. What do you notice about that? It groups. It didn't group in the beginning, wherever it is here, but it groups now. So I'm going to go ahead and group it, because that'll be faster. If I didn't know it grouped, if I didn't recognize that, or worse, I don't know how to group, then what could I do at this point? Guess more numbers, right? I could guess again. I don't need to do that though, because I know how to group. So what are my other answers? Well, one of them is 5, right? X squared equals -4, so what does x equal? Plus or minus 2i, that's exactly right. So your answers are the -1 we found first, and then the 5 and the plus or minus 2i that we got by grouping. All right, now I'm going to fund my mission trip. By the way, anybody going on the mission trip? Oh, good. It's going to be so fun. Okay. To fund the trip, I'm selling old Mathlete contest sheets. I sell 100 sheets a day for $1 each. So right now, that's my income. That's how much I'm making a day, right now. Agreed? Now what's going to change? What am I going to do? What's going to happen to my price? It's going down in increments of 10 cents. So my price is going to be $1 minus 10 cents x. I'm going down in increments of x, or of 10 cents. X increments of 10 cents. Now what's happening to the number of papers I have? It's going up in increments of 20. So my new income is this?
Yeah, what did
Yep,
you get?
20x, you're right, thank you. At increments of 20. So 100 plus 20x, that's how many papers I have, and $1 minus 10 cents x is what I'm selling them for. Right? So here we go. Remember, that's the same as 1, so if that bothers you, get rid of that. What is that? 10x plus 20x minus 2x squared. So assuming that I FOILed correctly, which may or may not be the case, I want to maximize my income. That means I want the vertex. If it's a quadratic, just like the fence problem on your quiz, if it's a quadratic and you want the maximum, you're going to find the vertex. So -b over 2a is 2.5. What was the question? Find my maximum revenue. What price will produce this revenue? Let's go back here for a minute. What does it stand for? 2.5 what? Dollars, papers? That's the number of increments I'm going to have, right? Well, if I have 2.5 of them and they're worth 10 cents each, What is that? 25 cents coming off of my original dollar. So how much am I charging? 75 cents. How many am I selling? Well, remember you were selling 100, now we're doing
Yeah, that's what it is.
50 more, so it'd be 150. So I am selling 150 papers at 75 cents each. So my maximum income, I don't know where my calculator is whatever 75 cents times 150 is. That's your maximum income. And the price you want to sell them for is 75 cents. Okay? Write the equation of the curve shown. All right, you did this on your quiz. Write the equation of the curve shown. All right, so what are my factors? X plus 3 and X minus 2. Those are my only two factors, but there's two things you have to pay attention to. What about this factor right here? It's going to be squared because it bounces off in the picture, right? Now also, what was given in this problem? This random point, right? So I need to figure out, sometimes I don't. If I don't have that random point, I don't need to worry about it. But as soon as I have that other point, I need to figure out what the coefficient is that's going to make me go through -1, 3. So -1 goes in for X and 3 goes in for Y. So here we go. -1 plus 3 is 2 squared is 4 times -3. So n equals -1/4. Does that look about right? So my equation is -1/4 x plus 3 squared x minus 2. Does it make sense that that number came out to be negative?
Yeah.
Yep, because why? Look at your picture.
Sorry.
Starting up and ending down. That's an upside down cube. Okay. Number 5, evaluate the function. Well, you should have no problem with this. If we want to evaluate the function, that just means what? We're going to plug in whatever they tell us to plug in place of the x. So f of -2t will be 2 times -2t squared minus -2t plus 1. Just plugging in -2t for all of the x's. David, you paying attention? Okay. All right, when I do this, what do I do first? When I start simplifying here, what do I do first? Square. So that squared will be 4t squared. So 8t squared plus 2t plus 1 and stop. That's all you do. If you go any further, you're doing way more than you need to, and I'll probably just end up being wrong. Question says, what happens when you plug in -2t? This is what happens when you plug in -2t. P varies inversely as Q. Stop right there. You have two forms of variation that you're responsible for. You have P equals KQ and P equals K over Q. Those are the only kinds of variations that we've discussed. Which one is it in this case? It's the bottom one, because the problem says inverse. So this is the form we are using. Find K when P is 4 and Q is 7. So K would be 28. Find the remainder when this is divided. All right, you are not going to want to divide this. Too many zeros. So all we have to do is what? We're not going to divide. We're just going to plug in 1. Plug in whatever number you would have divided by. If you were going to do the division, you would divide by 1. Plug in whatever that is. So that gives me 1 minus 3 plus 1 minus 8. So the answer is negative 9. So the remainder is negative 9. That question, same exact thing, could have been asked like this. Is x minus 1 a factor? And you would do exactly this, and since we got negative 9, we would say no, because the only way it's a factor is if what? We get 0. You get 0. All right, turn it over. We can do anything here that you want. I'm going to highlight a couple of them though. Let's look at number 3. This is the period 4 quiz on the back. It says the height is given by this equation. Okay, so the height is given by this equation. Find the maximum height of the ball and find the time when the ball hits the ground. Maximum height of the ball. What am I looking for if I want the maximum height of the ball? Vertex. Right? And I can find the vertex using negative b over 2a. So I get 2. What does that stand for? No, 2 is not the height. 2 is the t value. So that's your time. That means the ball is at its highest point after 2 seconds.
So just plug in 2.
So I can plug 2 in, and I get negative 16 times 4 plus 64 times 2. I got 64 feet. So what's the highest, or what's the maximum height of the ball? 64 feet. Maximum means vertex, okay? Find the vertex. If it's a quadratic equation, squared. Now, when does the ball hit the ground? Go back to your equation.
Just fine.
When does the ball hit the ground?
Put 0 in for height.
Put 0 in for height. Now, Jason has a great idea. Let me go ahead and solve this. How do I solve that? I put 0 in for height. If the ball's on the ground, its height is 0. How do I solve that? Oh my goodness. I can factor it, or if I don't see how it factors, or if it doesn't factor, I'll use the quadratic formula. But this one does factor. So I can take out a negative 16t, and I'm left with t minus 4. So when is the ball on the ground? Twice. It's on the ground at 0 and at 4. Now, given that you already figured out its maximum, the time to get to the maximum was 2, let's think about that for a minute. Here's your ball. This is 2. Does it make sense that this would be 4? All right, another one I want to look at is 6, number 6. P varies directly as M. Now, if we are varying directly, we're not using the formula in the box here, we're using P, what is it, P and M? Yeah, so P equals KM.
KQ.
Well, not in this problem because it's M, but yes. P equals K times M. Find P when K is -8 and M is 2. So what's P? Okay, that is so simple. And then number 7. Is -2 a lower bound of this?
So what you do is
So I do division, so 1, 1, -4, 1, and I divide by whatever number I'm checking, so that's -2. So I'll go ahead and do my synthetic division. Now, I'm not expecting a 0. I didn't get a 0. That doesn't worry me at all. I wasn't expecting to get that. But I need to answer the question. Is it a lower bound? No. Why not? The signs don't alternate. If this is going to be a lower bound, these have to alternate, remember? So 1, -1, like +2, -5 would be okay, but it didn't work that way. So it's not a lower bound. That just means potentially there are roots lower than it. All right, anything else on this paper that you see, Jade?
It's not on the paper, but for upper bound, they all have to be the same.
All the signs would say the same, yep. All right, anything else on this paper before we put that away? All right, then get out your packet. And we have a sheet that is called Additional Review for Tests. All right, it's the very last page of the packet. The book review problems, are optional in terms of your review work, but I have given you the solutions to them. So if you're doing them for practice, you do have the answers. I am looking at the very last page of my packet that says Precal A additional review. It's got the problems and then the answers are stuck on there too to save paper. So I want to look at problem 1 and 2 real quick, even though these aren't new, nothing here is new. We talked about all this, but just to reinforce, problem number 1 says this is the supply and this is the demand. Okay, so I've got 2 equations. I have a supply equation and a demand equation. Find the number of widgets produced when supply equals demand. Okay, this is a calculator problem for sure. And what are you going to do to find where supply equals demand? What are you going to do, Max?
Like plug in both equations.
Okay, so one option is Y1 in your calculator. Y1 is the supply equation. Y2 is the demand equation. Type them both in, right? Then what would you be looking for? You'd have to set your window so that you could see what? Where they cross. And it might take a little messing around. Let me remind you though, you want to look in quadrant 1 only. So X-min and Y-min are both going to be 0 because you can't have a negative price and you hope like heck you don't have a negative demand, right? You don't want those things negative. So X-min, Y-min, both 0, and then mess around with the others until you see 2 curves. They'll be squiggly, but you got 2 curves that are across each other. Then you go to second calc and choose the intersect option, right? And then left bound, right bound, you got it. Is everybody okay with that option? Is that the way everybody likes to do that? Okay, then we won't even talk about the other option, that's fine. When you do that, when you find that point of intersection, you're going to get a point This is the price. The problem doesn't use X's, it uses P's. So when it says it says find the number of widgets produced. Okay, so is the answer P? No, that's the price. You would have to fill it into one of your two equations. So, or you could just take that coordinate right there, right, from the calculator. All right, number 2, nature of the solutions. This is Descartes' rule of signs. Want to make sure you can do this. Okay, so here we go. Let's look at our problem. What do I do to get the ball rolling?
So what?
How do I get this thing started? How do I do this problem? Here's the problem. I gotta determine the nature of the solutions. What am I gonna do?
You're gonna find like P's and Q's or whatever, PRIs.
No, I'm not asked to solve this. I don't want to actually solve it. That might take me forever. I just want to know how many positive real roots there are. Jason? Oh, Max?
You count how many times the what's it called?
Signs.
The signs change.
Yep, I just look at it and say, okay, I got a change here, and a change here, and a change here. So there's 3 of them, right? 3 sign changes? So what do I write? 3 or 1? Now, this would do the same thing, but there's a preliminary step. What do I have to do to find the negatives? I have to pretend X is negative. So what happens to this term?
Negative.
No. A negative to an even power is positive. So this term's going to be positive. What about this term?
Oh.
Positive, positive, negative, negative. How many sign changes? 1. Don't count down, you can't. There's just 1. Now, how many roots does this problem have altogether?
19. Or 10. 20.
20.
There, guys, what's the degree of this equation? 10. Whatever the degree is, that's how many roots you have total. So there are 10 roots to this equation. If 3 of them are positive and 1 is negative, how many does that leave? 6. But what if only 1 is positive and 1 is negative? Then that would leave 8. And what did I tell you about that bottom row? No, it'll always be positive numbers. It has to be even because they come in pairs. Jake?
Can you explain the negative real again? I'm just confused on how you got
Okay,
this.
you gotta, if you put -1 in here,
Yeah.
okay, so that term would be positive. That term would be positive. Because when I raise a negative to an odd power, it's negative, but a negative times -3 is gonna be positive.
Okay.
I'm multiplying negative numbers.
So you're literally just putting -1 in
Yep.
X.
Yep. Put any negative number, but -1's the easiest.
Okay.
And then for both the positive and the negative reals, you count down.
By 2's,
Okay.
as far as you can. Okay, and then, let me see, what else do I wanna look at?
What do you mean you count down by 2s?
Because there's always pairs.
3 or 1,
Oh, so like 5 or 3.
or 1.
5,
Keep
3.
going down, right?
Okay. And then for the positive real, you put a +1 in and saw.
I didn't have to put any, I just count the sign changes in the problem.
When you say sign changes, so
It went from positive to, this is a positive term, this is a negative term, that's a change. Then it went back to positive, that's 2. Then it went to negative, that's 3.
thank you.
All right, number 5, we have already done one like it. Notice, what does number 5 have thrown in there?
Point.
That random point. So you're gonna have to set up your problem and then solve for that coefficient. Number 6 has some different questions. What are the PRRs for number 6? 3 and 1 over
1 and 2.
2 and 1, so that's 1 and 3, and then 1/2, 3/2, we already had that, plus or minus, all those things. Is x minus 1 a factor? Plug in 1 and see, yeah, I plug in positive 1 and see what happens. So if I put in 1, it doesn't look like I get 0. What do I get? 9 again? What's that 9? That 9 is the remainder. Question was, is it a factor? The answer is no, because I got a remainder. Is 5 an upper bound? How would I tell? I'll do my division, and what better happen? Oh my. It looks like it's going to be an upper bound, doesn't it? Is it going to be an upper bound? Yep, because why? All positive, right? That means you have an upper bound, which simply means there aren't any roots bigger than 5.
If they're all negative or all positive.
Number 7, write the equation of the quadratic function where the vertex is -3, 1, and it contains the point 2, 3. This was on a quiz you took. This should be so simple. The vertex is -3, 1, and it contains 2, 3. What's our strategy? No, I'm not doing slope. This is a quadratic, which means it's a parabola.
Should be x plus 3.
Y equals x plus 3 squared plus 1.
Yes.
That's my vertex. What's missing? The end. But luckily I have a point, so I can plug it in and figure out that n equals 2/25. Did I do too much in my head? Is that right? So this would be your equation.
Yeah, you get the.
Number 8 is another throw the rock into the air problem. Ooh, I can't read the whole thing. I don't know, I might have to look at the answers to see. It looks like it's -16t squared plus 32t plus 4. So how do we find the maximum height? Find the vertex. So assuming that's my equation, that's what I'm going to go with. Assuming that's my equation, then t equals -b over 2a. I get 1. What's the 1 represent? The time when it reaches its maximum height. How do I find the maximum height?
Plug in 1.
Plug in 1, so -16 plus 32 plus 4. What is that, 20? So the maximum height would be 20 feet.
I have a question about.
When is the rock on the ground? Now, you need to be real careful with this one, because I know what you're guessing. You're guessing 2. It's like there's something different about this problem. It didn't start on the ground. So is this the middle of these 2 points? No, it's the middle of these 2 points. So we can't do that tricky little thing. We're going to have to actually find when it's on the ground. And how do we do that? Set it equal to 0. Set your equation equal to 0, because that's the height. If it's on the ground, the height is 0. And then solve it. And how would you solve something like this?
Factor quadratic.
I would first of all divide everything maybe by -4, because it's all divisible. and then I would solve what's left. Probably using the quadratic formula because it's not gonna factor. I'm trying to see. There are only 9 problems on this. All the rest of that's the answers.
For number 9, that -2, does that have to do with anything about sketching?
Oh, yes, it has to do with anything about
It's
sketching.
gonna what?
You have roots. Here are your roots. Here are your roots.
You say quadratic.
We're sketching this. Now, what's the degree of that? If I multiplied it all together, what would the degree be? 5, which is odd. So that means it starts up and ends, oh no, it starts down and ends up, but we put a negative in front of it, so it's going to start up. That negative matters. It tells me which way my curve starts. Now, what does it do when it hits the point -4, 0? No, it doesn't bounce. It goes right through. Why does it go right through? Because that factor isn't squared. Okay, so then it comes down and it picks up here, grabs that one. What does it do there? It bounces. And then it's gonna pick up that one. What does it do there? Bounces. And just like you predicted, it starts up and ends down, which is what it was supposed to do. So, what impact did the -2 have? It turned it upside down. Okay? It also stretched it vertically, but we can't tell that from our quick sketch.
That's
On your answer sheet, you like got -72 somehow?
No, -72 is the y-intercept. Remember, we had a quiz or a practice sheet or something where you had to find the y-intercept. How do we find the y-intercept? We let x be 0.
Okay.
Yep. Sit down. Oh, sit down, sit down, sit down. You haven't been dismissed. It did not go past me. I ignored it. But it didn't go past me that over half of you